let's go ahead and begin. Thank you for joining, Katie, and everybody. So to start it off, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. I understand time is valuable, and your time is definitely important to us. So we want to make this as strategic as possible. For those that don't know me, I am Travis Burris. I am the VP of Global Channels and Alliances here at NUWAVE. And then my co-presenter today, my lead is Katie. Katie is the founder and CEO of B-Lynk, one of our newest alliance partnerships. And so we're extremely excited to have her today. Our goal and our foundation of this meeting is to really educate the channel on what we're doing with a very exciting solution delivery of enablement, and keep me honest here, Katie, but enablement for the end user experience. As we all understand in our industry, you know, we go out, we do the deployment, everything is good, everything's turned up, and then the customer experience might be lacking a little bit, right? The educational aspect of Teams or Zoom or Webex, the clients, devices, the enablement aspect, and that's been an industry issue for many years. So our partnership with B-Lynk, where our goal is to address that, and this is added to our product portfolio, so it is available to the channel. And eventually we will incorporate this into the marketplace within iPilot as well as a service offering. So, but our goal today is to educate. After we're done with today's meetings, then obviously your sales director, whomever you're supporting you, will reach out to address any additional questions. But we're going to take a little different approach. I don't like the word webinar. This is a roundtable technology discussion. So it's an open forum. So we don't have to wait until the very end. We're not going to wait and answer all the questions at once. So if you have questions as Katie is presenting to us, then I will definitely be reviewing the chat window and Q&A. So if you have questions, ask them. And then when there's a lull, we'll have them addressed and move forward if that works for everybody. So on that note, Katie, I'm gonna turn it over to you. And if you want, I know on the Teams client you can enable to be on the main screen. There's a little button. I know how to sell this stuff. I don't know how to use it necessarily, but on that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Katie. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to hearing what we have to say today.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Travis. It is a pleasure to be on with you and the folks that have registered and joined today. So thank you so much for your time. I have a few slides, I think maybe 5 slides, but like Travis said, I would love for this to be interactive. I also have some example content that I can share to give some visuals when we get to that point. But I thought before we get into all the nitty-gritty about B-Lynk and what this partnership looks like and the access that you guys will have to our services, I just wanted to give you a quick background about B-Lynk if you haven't heard of us, kind of what we do, and hopefully a little street cred along the way here. So like Travis mentioned, I am the CEO and founder of B-Lynk. I started the company a little over 16 years ago, and as part of that story, I actually came out of a startup that was selling BroadSoft licenses. So we were very early days of cloud VoIP, cloud PBX, whatever you want to call it, back in 2007, 8, 9. And one of the things that I realized in that organization, and I was in a sales capacity for majority of my time there, was that there was a lack of training content and services and things to get end users up to speed with this technology. And so that's really how I started my organization based on that challenge. And we have grown from there. We're based out of Tampa, Florida. I have about 20 employees that work with me. And we really focus on that gap of end user training. And it's really evolved to adoption content. So when you think of an end user customer, there are many different audiences within that customer. There's an administrator, there are just regular business users, there might be call center agents and supervisors, call center admins. So we try to tailor our services around all those individual roles within the customer's organization. So I'll kind of pause there. Travis, are there any questions?
No, and I want to elaborate a little bit more on that, and it's really this strategic approach how we really came together, right, Katie? So, and we've already done our due diligence, right? We've been talking about this for over a year, coming up in a couple of weeks from channel partners of 2025, and so based on that, really to Katie's point is the strategic planning. We've done the vetting. We believe in our partnership, and now we're excited to get it to the general public for whatever type of partner that you might have. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Travis. Cool. So, yeah, the other thing I think too, I try to kind of do in my intro a little bit. Yes, I run an end user training and adoption enablement company. There are other things that we do from a sales enablement perspective. So keeping that in mind, I have a slide up about that as well. But I think there's the ultimate goal, which is to enable end users to be productive with your technology, successful with your technology, but also it by default, sort of like as a byproduct, can drive those renewals, which are also very key and very important to the success of a partner's business. So with that, I'm going to share my screen here.
Perfect. Okay, we're getting thumbs up, so we're good.
Awesome. Okay, so I kind of did the intro already, so I'll just kind of jump right in here to reiterate that kind of last kind of statements that I had regarding the need that may be out there in the market. So really driving revenue growth, increasing user adoption with future renewals. Those are kind of the main, from a commercial standpoint where we can impact. Also freeing up partners' time. So oftentimes when we start working with partners or with service providers or any organization, MSPs, right? They may have an internal training person or a small kind of training team, and we oftentimes will augment those teams, or we can bring the whole team because our resources, our bench is deep. So we can do digital assets, videos, guides, GIFs, smart books, and we can also do virtual training, not the same resources, right? So we don't have trainers creating videos and user guides. We have trainers focusing on training, and we have a content team that focus on high quality assets for end user adoption. And all of that saves partners time, can free up your own resources. We also see oftentimes that a technical resource, such as a sales engineer or even someone on the real technical team, ends up doing some of this training just because they're the closest person to the deployment, or there is not a trainer internally, and we can really take that off of you as a partner's plate and take that on to free resources, the technical resources up to do more technical things. Reducing and customer churn, we already talked about that. So driving that renewal, reducing churn. Also, this truly can be a differentiator. So really, how do you differentiate? It is a very competitive market, and not all partners are doing this. So it is a unique aspect of your offer that you can take to market. We do oftentimes get involved in large bids and RFPs, and because of our depth, we can go into those RFPs with, hey, we can do videos, we can do guides, we can also do virtual training. Do you need us for on-site? So we can really bring a full menu of services into those large deployments.
Well, and Katie, real quick, if you don't mind, I'm sorry not to cut you off, but another powerful thing that we see, and we've talked about this on the podcast as well, is really to your point, you made a comment that nobody else is really doing this. And so when we're talking with the existing channel, they're getting excited for this. And then also when we're talking to new prospects or clients, they're indicating to us, guys, that no one else in the industry is doing this. I had a conversation with a very large carrier out of Europe, and I can't state the name, but when I mentioned that we were just starting this, I think it was 30 days ago, they were blown away. They were like, there's nobody delivering this type of solution in the industry to help us, because that's not their core, right? Their core is to go sell, deploy, and move on, where now they can provide, and to your point, that renewal, right? We are now, and I know we use this word a lot, but now we're sticky in that account. So there's no reason for that customer to go, hey, there's, we're going to renew with whomever the partner of choice might be. Yeah. So it's really making a difference in forward thinking of what we're trying to do for our channel here at NUWAVE as well.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's a great point, Travis. And I think one thing that does come up sometimes is, I started my business around really focusing on service providers that serviced an SMB market. We do that very, very well. We can work with any SMB. Our virtual training sessions are always tailored, even for a small SMB, in terms of what their deployment looks like, what their configuration looks like. But we also are very good at going up market. And I think the value there is when we get a large enterprise that is converting, maybe it's from legacy to the cloud or cloud to cloud. There's a lot of technical things that go into those migrations, right? And training is often forgotten or thought about like when it's too late. So I think in these regards, in an enterprise situation, that whole project management piece of it. So because even from a training standpoint, we have multiple discovery calls with the partner, with the end customer. We tailor the agenda. We really make that session special to the end customer. It's not canned. We do all the training right from their UI. We're within the instance of the customer when we're doing that training. And we take all of that project management, the scheduling of the sessions, all of that back and forth off the plate of the partner.
Perfect. And I was going to ask what that might look like, and I appreciate you jumping ahead of me. That's great.
Yeah. And it really, to kind of move on to the next one here, I think what I was just mentioning falls right into this customer onboarding portion of the customer journey. Prior to that, there are services that we do provide as part of our agreement with NUWAVE. So if there is a need for some e-learning, for sales product training, for any of that, like digital content that can help sellers get up to speed, oftentimes our videos and digital content can be used for demos. So alternatively, instead of meeting with a client, they might just say, what are the capabilities of the admin? What are the admin functionalities that are available? You could send a video to the link to the admin video, and they can see for themselves. So this kind of first section here of the journey, there's a lot that we can do, but I think where we can really focus and do some great work is in this customer onboarding and activation piece. So if you think about this customer onboarding, really preparing for those virtual sessions is where so much work goes into that. As I mentioned, we do these discovery meetings with the partner really to understand your customer, right? We want to make sure we are clear on what the end customer has, what are the hot buttons, like what are their important bells and whistles that they love that really sold the deal, like all of those little details will help us deliver a really cool and effective service to the end customers when we do that training. So there is really a lot of work that takes place in this onboarding section. And then with the activation, that's where we actually deliver the virtual sessions. And oftentimes we will also deliver getting started content, which think of a quick start guide for a device or a quick start guide for Webex or Teams or whatever application that we're training on. And those go hand in hand with those virtual sessions. And then if you keep moving along on the journey here, supporting end users ongoing. So this is really for the life of that customer leading up to renewal. What resources do they need to continue to be successful? Is it video? Is it GIFs? Is it pumping out, a smart book on how to use this new functionality? So there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do ongoing to support end users throughout their time with you as a customer.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great for growth, right? I mean, where companies are always growing, they're always adding, and if we already have that in place, that's another selling tool that we could utilize during the sales cycle as well as because we identify, right? Us as sales individuals should identify growth patterns over the next 12 to 18 months, and so we can incorporate that into our message, saying, hey, this is just not a one-time thing. As you add your the 30% growth that you just talked about, this will be incorporated into that as well. So I think that that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And even when you get into contact centers and that type of environment, there's turnover within those users, within those companies. So having resources available for, as customers are churning employees throughout that journey, what resources do they have available to get new hires up to speed, or just even growth? If it's not even employee turnover, it's actually just adding new users. How do you do that effectively and scale that going forward?
That's great. I didn't even think about the context. That's right. You're absolutely correct on the contact center environment because there was a lot of turnover within that environment. That's great.
Yeah, it's definitely not
Yeah.
a one and done.
Yeah, most definitely.
And yes, and then just from the adoption challenge perspective, kind of, banging the drum here on renewals, but 63% abandon rate, that's really high. So what can you do to prevent that? How can you keep your customers? How can you make them sticky, like Travis said, and really drive that, drive that renewal via really great adoption services?
And we all like renewals. I know I do.
Yes. Any other questions? I've been talking a lot. Is there anything else popping in there, Travis?
No, nothing's popped in yet. We've had a couple of other people join us, so thank you for joining us today. But yeah, no, I think we're good for now.
Okay, cool. So just a little bit more detail on the actual training service. So if you were, to engage with us and bring us in to help with onboarding of customers or a customer, and this same methodology applies to an SMB customer as well as an enterprise customer. But really, we take this from a pre-training discovery with the key stakeholders. And in an SMB, it might be the customer admin. It might even be, the office admin, whoever is really in charge of this deployment. And we have a pre-training discovery with those people, understand, any key things that need to be covered during that training. We also align. So really, we'll do a pre-training discovery with the partner, first to understand the customer, then with the customer to understand and align on the agenda. Every single agenda is unique, right? We start with a standard set of topics that we cover, but we are always modifying those depending on the end customer's needs, depending on how they use their communication system and platform today and what that's going to look like in the future. So everything is very tailored and customized to that end customer's environment. We do record all sessions and we send out the recordings afterwards. They are typically done virtually, but occasionally we do get requests on-site that typically would be in a contact center environment. If there is a request to have somebody be on site, if it's a large deployment and big cutover with a big contact center, we can do that too. And then last, we're bringing you professional trainers. They have years of training end users. In fact, our lead trainer, her and I worked together at Televisions prior to me starting B-Lynk. And I brought her on. I was lucky enough to get her in 2020 and, just fantastic. Lots and lots of years with this technology and the evolution of the technology so they can really bring that professional experience to your customers.
Katie, if I can ask a question. So, you refer to the on-site, right? I know in today's world, we don't do a lot of on-site of anything much anymore, but to set proper expectations for the channel, this is just me thinking, but when someone's starting to refer, you talked about enterprise. Really, is there a certain threshold, size of a customer that you would just say yes to or no to? I'm trying to be politically correct when I say that, but you're looking at 10 or 15 users. Are you going to do an on-site? Probably not. But do you have a threshold that you've used in the past to say, okay, if required, let's say 1,000 users plus, or does that make sense?
Yeah, we don't really have a threshold. I think there's just a lot of fleshing out what the why of the on-site. And then really talking that out and going, okay, because it could actually be more effective. You could get more users on a virtual session and understanding that, as long as they understand that we're going to be showing them how to do all of this stuff, that they're going to likely be doing on their computer from our computer in their environment, it may be more effective than them sitting in a conference room and looking at a screen. You know what I mean? You can almost follow along with the session. So a lot of times it's just fleshing it out. I'd say the most common scenario where we do end up going on site is in a contact center. Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you for that. Yeah. And then on the right-hand side, I have listed, various components of your offer that we can train on. I always like to say, our our process is our product. So if it's not something that's on this list, we've done so much stuff over the last 16 years. There's a good chance we've either done it, we've tried it, or we can do it, because the way that we go about either training our trainers or creating content is the same. So if you see something that's not on that list, don't assume that we can't do it.
And we just had a question come in real quick, and this is a great question by Matthew. We see the Webex contact center, but what about, do you guys also do and train on the Teams call queues?
We have done Teams call queues. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Matthew.
Yeah, great question. All right. And then from a digital content standpoint, which this is, these are assets that are typically used ongoing, right? So we look at it as the virtual training is happening, day one. Like this is training that they need to get started, to kick it off, to get going, so they feel comfortable with their new technology at cutover. Then beyond that, can be supplemented with digital content and assets for them to refer back to. And that can be for the existing users that attended training, or for, like we mentioned before, if there's new hires or there's turnover, where do they go? And these would be great assets for them to reference to learn how to use their tools. And, there's a number of things shown on this slide here, and we can do a lot, right? So we've been doing this a long time, from, 30-second how-to videos, explainer style videos. I won't walk you through all of these, but explainer style videos have actually been a really popular adoption asset. So if you think of like, a cool animated video that is really almost like for an enterprise would be like a hype video for, hey, we're getting new technology. This is what we're getting. We're getting new Webex. We're getting Teams, or whatever that is, and getting the users excited about what's coming. So from administrator or IT stakeholder standpoint, it's kind of getting it out there like, hey, this is coming, and get excited. It's really cool. Obviously they're making a big investment, and those assets can kind of get those users, pumped up for day one. We can do true promotional videos. We can do guidebooks, quick start guides. We do a lot of quick start guides. Like I mentioned before, those often can be go hand in hand with virtual training. So we'll do the training, we record it, we send it to you, and then we might send like a 2-page quick start guide that is, how to do the basics of the phone or the app or the tech that we taught.
Perfect. Real quick, and I apologize, but we had another great question come in, so I want to address it since we kind of said it's going to be open. Matthew brings up another really great question. By chance, can our partners white label any of this content?
100%. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, they can. Our content can be white labeled. The guides are easier. The videos can be, I don't want to say trickier, but depending on what the scenario is, it can be done.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. I'm not going to go into all of the boxes here, but are there any other questions about digital content capabilities?
No, I see Perry typing, but we'll give him a quick second. If he types like me, it takes me forever. But yeah, now he just stopped. It's kind of like on that phone, you see that. But anyway, yeah. So we'll give him a couple minutes. But yeah, if we want to, we can move forward until we get that question from Perry.
Cool. Sounds good. I know. I think I'm about to wrap up on my slides, and then I have a couple other tabs that I can share with some example content too.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's kind of a wrap for the deck. Our team, as I mentioned, we have trainers, we have technical writers, we have content people, we have designers, graphic, we are a very collaborative company. So we enjoy working with our customers to collaborate on solutions. So that's why I kind of get stuck when there's like a list of things that we do. I'm like, but we can do more. Let's talk about what you need and what that looks like, and we can get creative. So yeah, we are really excited to work with some of your partners, Travis, and I'll move on and show some examples unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, so Perry just proposed a great question. So it says, Katie, do you have any assessment or interview tools to help a partner identify I can never say the word, pain points pretty much, and use cases to begin a more in-depth discovery process?
Yeah, what I would say, we've done that. So basically we've worked with partners before to come up with a list of discovery questions, and we can put that
Yeah.
into a digital, like a smart book. It would be a collaborative effort. So I don't think there's probably anything like off the shelf that we could say, here's your slam dunk, list, but we would definitely work to collaborate on that list based on our previous experience and what you want to have on that list, and then put something together.
Perfect. That's awesome. I like the flexibility. That's great.
For sure. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this tab here. And I have just a couple examples.
Sure. And then once again, everybody on the call, don't forget. I know if you don't ask the question now, your NUWAVE sales directors will be reaching out to address any additional questions. And then also, this will be uploaded into the Partner Academy portal. This webinar, I'm sorry, the roundtable, as well as it'll be located on our website shortly as well.
Yep. So, okay, here is just an example of a device tutorial, and I kind of like to explain a little bit of the mechanics of how it works. So, what we do when we deliver these is we'll provide you with an HTML file. All of these topics can be customizable. I'm showing this as just kind of a very generic version of it here, but we would put your company logo up here, and then each of these are individual video files. So we have some customers that maybe would want to have these topics broken out into separate MP4s. We can absolutely deliver it like that, or we can send it over in tutorial style, and I'll just let one of these play.
To park a call while on an active call, select Transfer. Enter *68 and enter the extension on which you wish to park the call, followed by the key. Parked calls can be retrieved from any phone within the office. To retrieve a parked call, dial *88.
So I think you kind of get the point. So yeah, so these are all just individual video topics here at the left, on the left-hand side. I'm kind of scrolling here, but this list can be customized. We always have a standard list that we start from. We've done tons and tons from a device standpoint, tons and tons of devices, makes and models over the years. So very experienced with that. But any kind of questions on this type of asset?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. I will stop this one. And then I have,
and I think another key component of this also is, which I've seen, and my team can keep me honest on this, but devices are important. I know the demand in the market. People are saying, no, the devices are going away. They're never going to go away technically, but I think that's some of the biggest challenge that we've experienced with our channel is the end user experience at the device level. And it's awesome that you guys are able to do the polys and the A-links, and I saw the audio codes and all that. The client, you probably don't, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but probably you don't do as much training on as a client per se than you would do a device. Would that be accurate, or would I be off base on that?
I would say it's evolved over the years where we do like client training. So I just pulled up a Webex contact center agent. So the contact center, yes, absolutely, we're doing that. And then I would say from an application perspective, we're doing a lot of Microsoft Teams with Webex calling integration.
Gotcha.
So it could be where it's not like we're training on the entire, Teams platform or Webex platform. It's kind of like the calling piece that's gotten brought in after the fact that we'll train on. I'd say that has been in the last probably 6 to 9 months, the most popular from an application perspective, along with contact center.
That makes sense. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, and then these are also customized a lot of times, especially with a larger contact center. I think this is a very generic.
To sign into Agent Desktop.
But I pulled this up as an example because if we are doing an enterprise and maybe there's an integration or an SSO, we always customize the sign in because it is going to be likely unique. there could also be integrations. We would include any, video topics that are around that. Maybe it's a CRM integration that is included in the deployment. So this is just really a basic one, but there's lots of flexibility there.
An active call can be transferred in several ways. To begin, click Transfer. The Transfer Request dialog box appears. Choose one of the following options. Note, only the options you have access to populate as transferable destinations. Agent, select an...
So, yeah. You probably get the point. So, but yeah, I just wanted to show those kind of a couple different examples of content pieces there, video specifically. But yeah, does anybody have any questions?
We'll give everybody a couple minutes, but on my side, this is great. Like, guys, I just see the power of the delivery of this partnership, Katie. This is the reason why we're doing this together. We're extremely excited. I know as a company as well. And you're more than welcome, Matthew. Thank you for joining us today. But I really, guys, within the channel environment, if we're not taking advantage of this to get that, and I'm going to use the word sticky again, we're missing out because we are delivering a very powerful option for your customers, and we should be taking advantage of this on all aspects. And I know in our podcast, I stated we now own the deployment from cradle to grave from the beginning to end, right? And we can now technically provide that. Now, it's taken us a year to do so, but we're here and we're going to make it work. So this is very, very powerful information. Katie, I really appreciate it. First and foremost, that's awesome. So
yeah. Thank you, Travis. Yes, we are equally excited about the partnership and hopefully can work with some of y'all, all of you, hopefully in the future, and really looking forward to providing a great experience for your customers.
No, we appreciate it very much. So, I'm gonna stay on just maybe a minute or so, unless someone has any questions. I want to address anything before we leave, and if not, we'll give you some time back in your day. But as always, guys, as NUWAVE and B-Lynk, we truly appreciate the opportunity today because I do understand time is valuable. So, I see Wally's typing something, so we'll see if it's see what Wally has to ask us this afternoon. Okay. Do we order these services directly from NUWAVE or through B-Lynk? So do you want to elaborate on that, Katie? Or
I mean, we have this partnership with NUWAVE for a reason. So please contact NUWAVE, and we'll work with Travis and team on getting what you need.
Yeah. But to Katie's point, yeah. So you're going to be working directly with us as NUWAVE, and then we'll do help with all the coordination and the transferring of, over to Katie's group to start scheduling those initial discovery calls with you and the customer and so forth. But yeah, you can work directly with your sales director. And then we have all the pricing worked out as well. And so we'll be working through that, and that can be addressed with our NUWAVE sales directors as well. You're more than welcome, Wally. That's a great question. So,
yes, great.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, Katie, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me today. So
Thanks,
this is awesome.
Right.
And in the meantime, guys, have a blessed day, and we'll definitely talk to you again soon.